I am the host, Richard Ravenbrook, a man, a life coach, and a spiritual mentor who has endeavored to find real spiritual truth and self-enlightenment. With experiences in various ministry types, pagan traditions, and even magical paths. With a love for Mother Earth and the balance of life, I work to channel spirit and to help educate and mentor those striving to deconstruct from mainstream religion and to empower them to find the divinity within themselves and to the truth around them. The messages are focused on everyday life, creating an environment of real coexistence, a world of mutual respect, love, and dignity. The pagan preacher is all things, the preacher and the pagan, speaking from the wisdom of spirit. Hello everybody, welcome back to another episode of The Pagan Preacher and another spiritual message. I also want to welcome you to what will be the online Ravensbrook Sanctuary. Today's message is a hard one. Much like the last few weeks have been, Spirit has been deeply moving, deeply engaging and showing things in my community and my surroundings, and speaking in ways that Spirit has never really spoken before, or at least in a higher magnitude and a level of importance. I feel an urging, almost a desperation to communicate to the people that there is a better way than the way you're living right now. There is a better way to have a good life. There's a better way to obtain happiness, pursue your happiness. And what I keep hearing is we need to return to the old ways. The old ways. You know, back when a man could find a parcel of land and build himself a home and maybe have a family, hunt his own food, grow his own food. He wasn't a slave to debt. He wasn't a slave to anything. He could have his religion or no religion at all. She can have all these things as well. But we've lost touch with who we are as a people. We've lost touch with who we are as divine creations from the divine. We, out of necessity for luxury and comfort, have enslaved ourselves in a system that I know very few are truly happy in. I know people in their 70s and 80s that are still having to work just to put food on the table after paying years and years and years into this system, into this broken system that does not, and I repeat, does not work. It isn't working. And Spirit says that if we don't do something, that soon we are going to reach the end of that bottle cap, that bottleneck, and things are going to go boom. Things are going to end in a way that is, I don't think I even have to go into depth. I think everybody understands exactly what I'm saying. The old ways. You know, the old ways were people were free to be who they were. Now I know that said, we've had many different religious bodies that have come in over the course of time, and it was either convert or die. But there was a time when people could just be people. They followed their traditions. They followed their family's paths and their ancestors' paths and their ancestors' paths. That's the way it was. Native Americans had their way. Some still do. Others were forced, coerced, or whatever you want to call it, into other religions that were not their own. Europe, other countries, most pagan traditions, the Norse, Scandinavian, you name it. But inside us, I guess this is where I'm really trying to say is, they couldn't take who you were on the inside. People would fight. They would stand on what they believed. But in today's society, we can't. We're hurting on the inside. And there's no way for us to fight in a way that is honoring our ancestors or our God or our gods, because we're forced into this situation. We live in concrete jungles that we have no choice but to find a job. And hopefully the employer takes care of its people. Hopefully the employer treats them justly and treats them like people. But I know there's many out there that do not. That people are treated like numbers. But people, we have no choice but to do these things because that light bill has to get paid. The rent has to get paid, or the mortgage has to get paid. The property taxes have to get paid. Got to put gas in the vehicle so I can get to work to pay and it just goes on and on and on. We have put ourselves into many situations like this. And I don't like to get political on these podcasts or in a service or a spiritual service. But Spirit's telling me that there is a time to know when to draw the line. To draw the line to say, you know what? For my family's sake, for my children's sake, for my grandchildren's sake, we have to draw the line and say enough is enough. You know, when a $40,000 house is now $500,000, and a loaf of bread that used to be 35 cents is now $4, and it just goes on. And you know what? It doesn't, because every single time society gets a raise, they raise the cost. And it just, and please do not say it doesn't, because that trickle-down effect is absolutely fact. In 55 years, I have watched it. And I have listened to others and say the same thing. You know, just 50 years ago, you could buy a pair of boots for a nickel. That same pair of boots would probably be close to $300 now. Because it's a cycle and a cycle. And the Spirit keeps saying, get back to the old ways. The old ways where families could be families. You didn't spend 90% of your time working just for your basic necessities of life. Away from your family, away from your friends, away from the people that you love. Spending time for a company to make them rich while you merely get the basic necessities. Maybe a little more, probably not much. We have lost our way in society. And I guess where this message really comes into a spiritual sense is the fact that Spirit knows, Spirit says that we can't be happy and we can't be ourselves, we can't be fully empowered when we are locked in our own prison, when we are locked into a position that we are not happy in, and we will never be happy in until we break back out of it. And breaking back out of it is simple. Just stop. What would happen if every person woke up the next morning and said, you know what? I'm not going to work. Every single person. Things would change in a matter of days, wouldn't they? Yes, we would have to be prepared. Yes, bad things would happen. But there's a time. There's a time to begin that change. I'm not saying it has to stay that way. But sometimes in order to wake people up, there has to be a force to be reckoned with. You know, it would be very hard for us as we are right now in this country, in the concrete jungle, to go back completely to the old ways. But I know that it's not impossible. It's one of those things that you have to look way past your eyes. You have to go back and see. You have to see things for what they can be, not what they are. You have to see a society and a world that functions for the better good of society rather than the individuals. That we can function together and we can perform duties in this world and in this life to keep us going, to keep those things moving. Food and water, electricity, whatever those things are, those things can fully function. But without the slave mentality, because no one is truly owning anything, but everyone owns everything. We, a society of brothers and sisters, all working together for the common good of man. This sounds like, well, yeah, but that's absolutely, you could never achieve anything like that. But you know what? Spirit's saying that it's going to happen. It may be down the road, maybe this week, and I know a lot of things I'm saying sound a little bit off, may sound a little, just a little off. But Spirit's trying to speak. Trying to say that, it's not working. And there's going to come a time when desperate measures will be done and have to be done. And it's going to be either that point in time where things just explode through that bottleneck because it just can't handle no more, or we begin the process ourselves and begin to work our way back into where we should have never left. We gave up so much for luxury and comfort, and our battle with the Joneses to try to be better than our neighbors. We've got this fancy car and we've got this fancy house. Kid went to a fancy college, and at 80 years old you're still working, still slaving. Only spent 20% of your life actually living, and the other 80% working just for that 20%. We can't be empowered. We can't be the divine creations that we were made to be in that situation. We can't be free if we're not free. And people, we are not free at all. We are slaves, voluntary slaves. We wake up every morning. You say you have a choice. That's not much of a choice. To go to work, pay your bills, or don't go to work and live on the street. That's not much of a choice. Or if you try another way, then you're called you're mooching off society, or you're mooching off of, you're just just a bad person that you just want to take from everyone else and not give to society. When that's most of the time absolutely not true. We get ourselves in situations, or we have been put into situations, just like when COVID came, when people couldn't work and got behind in their bills, and now people look at it's like it never even happened. People ask them, well, why did you get behind in your bills? And it's like, did you not remember that for a year people didn't even work? They couldn't work because your government told them they couldn't work? We are not free. And it's going to get worse, and it's going to get worse. And when I say we're going back to the old ways, it's because I'm trying to prevent that bottleneck from exploding. You're going to see different movies about end times, and you're going to see different movies and stories and articles about what could happen when these things happen. And Spirit showed me two directions, and one was the fact that, like I just said, one that we begin the process, and it's a slower process, a process where people don't go hungry, a process where people find things in their life they need, positions of worth, purpose, and we begin to work together for the common good. And then there's the other one, the other path, where we just keep going like we are, like nothing is ever going to happen, that we're just going to keep going on, and we're just going to hope things get better, that our politicians are going to make things better. And that's not going to happen. And when that time comes, it's going to be devastating, friends. It will be absolutely devastating. Everything will shut down. Pain and suffering will be like you've never seen. And I don't mean to cast fear. I don't mean to stir a fear in people that these things are going to happen, because I think most of the people out there already know these things are going to happen. But there's a way to stop it, and that's to admit to it, accept it, and begin to change it. And it doesn't change by bringing in new corporations, new businesses, paying people a little bit more money. Because just like I said, it's all a cycle. It will go on and on and on until we as a society can come together and begin to function for the good of society, not for profit, not for financial or monetary profit, but for the good of each other. You go to work every day in whatever it may be. Maybe you drive a truck, and you're going to drive that truck not for the money, but to feed other people. And you're going to say, well, I got to know it's, and I can't go into this whole thing of how this works, but I can tell you the Spirit has given me many of the answers of how this can work. That how we all can keep what we have, begin to work our way back to the old ways, having more property for more people. And you're going to say, well, you can't really get into people's lives so much that you're going to say, well, one person shouldn't have 1,000 acres and another person have none. But we have to get to a point in society where we have to understand that one family doesn't need 1,000 acres. And many of the things in my friends, the Native Americans, when things that, they've taught me, and they've taught me many different things, is that man can't own land. Man can't own planet Earth. And that if we take more than what we need, we destroy. We destroy the balance. And the United States and other parts of the world as well, but I'm speaking about the United States. We're a mess. There's very few places in the United States anymore that are free range, where animals are free to go, free to roam. We destroy everything we touch. Doesn't it seem that way? Everywhere humans go, they destroy. Because for some reason, we can't just take what we need and respect the balance. We have to keep taking and taking and taking until there's no more to take. And we find excuses. Well, yeah, we took out 5 species of animals, but humans are more important. And then at the same time, we all run around to church or run to the temple or run wherever we're going spiritually and say that we love the Creator after we just destroyed a handful of their creations. You know, I've said this many times before, you cannot love a Creator and not honor their creations. You don't love that Creator if you can stand back and watch their creations die in front of you, knowing that you could do something about it, knowing that you could change everything simply by standing and saying, you know what you're saying is true. What you're saying is most definitely going to be a challenge, definitely not going to be easy. But if I believe in the Creator and I believe Spirit, I believe that there is a way. We have to get spiritual people who hear Spirit. I'm not talking about carnal-minded, religious people that come out of college that have absolutely no idea of the divine, absolutely no idea how to connect to the divine, are always looking everywhere else for divinity when divinity is found within us. We need people that understand that. We need people that believe in people as a whole. That there is no culture, no race, no religion, no anything above another. We are all free people, and that's the way it should be. That we all have something to give. We all have something that we have within us that can make our world a better world. We start with our country because that's where we are right now. That's where I am, I guess. But this really goes for the entire world. Where do we start? Number one, it starts with, just like I said, acknowledgement. Acknowledge that we're not happy. Acknowledge that there has to be a change. Acknowledge that the politicians that have been in place for the last 50 to 100 years or whatever, Republican, Democrat, it's not working. We need something different. We need somebody, some people that understand the old ways. That understand that, yes, when it comes to enlightenment of the people, when it comes to, as a species, that yes, we have to continue to grow. I'm not talking about the old, going back to, I think you understand what I'm talking about. When I talk about the old ways, it's more of a culture, more of a philosophy, more of a mannerism of living. And it worked. And it can work again. This corporate, and I've I can't say that, that I'm completely against capitalism, but I know what capitalism does. Not totally for socialism, but socialism has its good points. Hasn't worked so far, but somewhere in the middle of all this mess, somewhere in the middle of all these ideas, Spirit says that, you guys have had good ideas. You guys have had, you've had people out there that knew exactly, well, maybe I shouldn't say knew exactly, but they had this notion. They had this feeling. They had this vision. But somewhere it went wrong. They knew how to achieve peace. They knew how to help people be happy. How to help people be empowered again. To get in touch with the world, with their God, their gods, with their Creator, and go back to the life that they could actually call life, living. Most of us aren't living anymore, are we? I know some of the things I've said have been all over the place today. But if you take anything from this spiritual message, Spirit is telling us that we have to do something. An end is coming. And if we don't do something, it will be devastating. If we don't accept the need now and begin to make those changes now, our children or our grandchildren will suffer greatly. We have to do something. The current way, the current standard is not working. The religious mannerism is not working. There's churches on every corner, and our society continues to fall because they're not teaching the truth. You're not teaching enlightenment. You're not teaching what the man you call Jesus taught. Rather, you're teaching what disciples and flawed people taught. And then we're teaching mistranslations, and we're teaching it has to stop. We need to get back to our ancestors. We need to get back to those old teachers that knew what they were talking about and what they were doing. We need to get back to the wise women that knew the hidden mysteries behind things that most of us could never even fathom. We need to get back to those old ways where we respect our elders, where children grow up and respect their parents, where we understood that we had a purpose in this life, and it wasn't about what college we went to, what job we had, but it was what was in your heart and what you did with your life. That's what mattered. Not how much money you made or what car you drove. Those things will never make us happy as a people. It will never make us happy because we are not a materialistic species. Look at all the species on this earth. Do any of them require anything outside of what the Creator already gave them? No. Only us. Why? Because we're never satisfied. We're always wanting more than what we should have, taking more than what we need. And we have to stop. There has to be a time when we draw this line, and this urging, this feeling, this Spirit is crying out in this grievous kind of a message that it's maybe we all just need to take some time and think and rely on Spirit. Speak, Spirit, speak to me. I am unhappy in this situation of being a slave to debt. But how do we change this country, and how do we convince others that it's the right thing to do, and how do we convince others that we can do this together? We can do this together. And I know with fear, trusting people is hard. Trusting organizations is hard. Trusting almost anything in today's society is hard. Because we've been let down as a people and as a species. We're hurt inside. We have many unresolved issues as a species. We have many traumas, but we can get through this. We can change the future of our nation and our world for the benefit of our children and our grandchildren. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for taking the time to listen. I hope somewhere in this message I have touched you, or Spirit has touched you, rather. Be blessed, everyone, and blessed be. Thank you, everyone. This is Richard Ravenbrook. From my heart to yours, I hope you are blessed. Please be a blessing. Share these podcasts. Share my short videos. Tell the world the work that's being done. Help me open the minds of those so closed. Help me bring into the fold those seeking truth and enlightenment. Be blessed.